Hello and welcome to Jill Cameron Creations. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to create a Z-Fold card as well as a Z-Fold pop-up card. These are the basic measurements for the card, but you can go over to my blog and grab the printable sheet that has all of the measurements on it. And basically you just cut an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock down the middle lengthways, and then you will score it in the middle as you would a regular card at 5.5, and then you're going to score 1/2 of that at 2 3/4, and that's going to give you your Z-fold for 1/2 of the card. The other half of the card, you will cut that 4 1/4 by 11 inch panel down to 2 1/8 by 11, and you scored it at exactly the same places. And then to put it together, you just flip the pieces around and adhere the long end of one to the short end of the other, and that's how you get your Z-fold. And I'm going to show you real quick how you put together the pop-up version of this, and then we're going to take a look at how we do just a basic Z-fold card. And a Z-fold card fits in because the finished card size is 4 1/4 by 5.5. So most of the time they are landscape cards, but they fit in a regular envelope, A2 size envelope, just fine. And what I'm going to do is show you how to put together the pop-up feature real quick. And the pop-up feature does make it a little bit thicker, so you might have to put it in like a bigger envelope or a padded envelope if you have a lot of stuff in it. For the pop-up feature, all you need to do is cut 3 additional strips of cardstock that are about about 1/2 inch wide and 3 1/4 inches long, and then you're going to score both ends at 1/4 inch. So you end up, you know how the Lawn Fawn pop-up box card has those pieces in it that cut out for you, and they have the little tapers on the end of it, and it does the score lines? That's exactly what this is, except you're just making your own. So it's about 3 1/4, and you score it 1/4 on both ends. And of course it's 1/4 and 3 if you're just leaving the paper in there and not flipping it around. But all of that is on the printable sheet over on my blog. And you'll just sign up for my free resource library in order to access that and download that information. It's just a PDF, and it's something that you could put in a binder and keep, so you don't have to go back to videos or search for it on Pinterest when you want to make a beautiful card that doesn't require special dies. This just requires a couple of cuts and some scoring of your paper, and you can make an absolutely gorgeous pop-up card, or even just a plain Z-fold card. They're very pretty as well, and I'm going to actually show you how to do that using some Echo Park products. And then on the pop-up version, we're going to use a bunch of different Lawn Fawn stamps, and I fussy cut that stuff out. And y'all know, if y'all have listened to me before, I am not a fussy cutter. It's not one of my favorite things to do, but I did it for that card, and it was definitely worth the time that I spent doing that. So you see what I mean by you put the long end and adhere that to the short end, and then it just folds over perfectly. So Z-fold cards have been around for a very long time, but they are really, really easy to make, and they are very impactful. A lot of it, when you see Z-fold cards on Pinterest, a lot of them look very old school. And I wanted to show you that you can make a Z-fold card with your current stamps and dies, and this is something that anybody can do. You don't have to have a special machine or anything to do this, just the ability to cut a straight line and a scoreboard, and that's truly, truly all you need to do this. I will say that you do need to use really strong adhesive. And if I made these again, the base weight that I used to make the card bases here was 110-pound Neenah Solar White, like I usually do. And I will say that I would probably, next time that I make this card or this style of card for a pop-up, I'd probably use the 80-pound paper. just because I think it would score and fold a little better. That's the only reason for it, because you end up adding so much more paper to it. You really don't have to worry about the sturdiness of it. I wouldn't necessarily make it out of like a patterned paper or anything like that, because I think that would be a little too flimsy. But even a colored cardstock would do well with this kind of card, because it has so much stability with the Z-fold itself. It stands up all on its own. But my card's a little bit thick, and I think I would definitely make it out of a little bit lighter weight paper the next time that I make one of these. So I put this together, and I'm doing this just exactly like I would if I was making the pop-up box card from like Lawn Fawn. I'm putting the little slats in the area that's going to have the pop-up part, and then I am going to fold over the other part so that it lines up. So I just laid everything flat down, just like I would if I was using a Lawn Fawn product, and putting that together, and lined everything up, made sure it was straight, and folded that piece over, and voila, it's all good. See? Easy peasy. Now you don't have to fight with it. And then I pulled off the release paper on the rest of this and put the long flap to the short flap, and you can't lay it down flat when you have the pop-up part in there, but it lays down flat enough. It folds up flat, that's great, but it won't lay down flat as one piece. So that's all you need. Now let's take a look at going ahead and adding stuff to this. And what I did was I took the Echo Park, what is the name of that Stampin' Die set? It's from the Echo Park Celebrate Autumn release that came out a couple months ago. And I've used it before on a couple different things. For this one, I used the Nuts About You Stampin' Die set, and also the Autumn Blessings word dies. And since this is just a basic one, this does not have the pop-up feature in it. And I also used coordinating papers from the Dots and Stripes collection, as well as some of the solids and some of the patterned paper from this collection. And I just stamped out the images, and I used colored pencils, my Prismacolor pencils, to I'm fascinated by the motion of that thing, but I stamped out the images and used my Prismacolor pencils, and I just did some really basic coloring, and I pre-cut a bunch of the cardstock to put on here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that down, and I'm just making sure I remember where all of my pieces go for my cardstock, and I covered all of the white areas on here. And I'm going to lay out all of my images and figure out which ones, all of them, I want to use. And then I stamp out my main greeting that shows up on the front. All of the words actually show up on the front of this card when it's closed. But this is my big main greeting, and I did white heat embossing on it. So we're just going to use our anti-static powder tool. And I'm going to use Hero Arts Ultra Fine Detail Embossing White Embossing Powder. And I stamped that down. I used my Misty just in case I needed to go back and stamp it again. It would be there and I wouldn't have to fool with it. So there that is. And heat it up, melt it till it's nice and smooth. And that white really pops on that background. And it's not too busy because that background is so dark. If you have something small like this, grab a clothespin and put it on there. Wood or plastic will work, but there you go. I did not do any stitched rectangles or anything for this. I just cut them all out. If you wanted to make it look a little bit more finished on each of the edges, you could actually edge it just like you would when you fussy cut out a stamp, or when you fussy cut out a stamp, you could actually take a matching marker and run it around the edge of that, since this particular pattern paper has a white core in it, and that could make it look a little bit more finished. But I really wasn't worried about it because my background is white, my card base is white, So it kind of blends in and it looks just fine. So I'm just using my Tombow permanent tape runner here and adhering all of my panels down and making sure they're where I want them to be. And that one was a little short, but that's okay too. Adhering those down, and still looks great. Ta-da! Making sure everything closes up and nothing's catching. And I didn't leave really a place on this particular card to put an actual sentiment, as far as from you, like where you would sign your card and that kind of thing, because I just kind of figured that would be one of those things of you could sign it anywhere you wanted to and just use a dark enough ink. I used some of the dies from the Autumn Blessings Word die set, and I cut two out from just plain white cardstock, and then I cut one out of the coordinating colored cardstock and stacked those together. And I'm adhering everything down flat. I'm not using any foam tape or anything like that. And I also did not worry about putting anything in the hole itself. I just didn't feel like it needed to, just because of this particular card style. And just putting my images down, I'm using Nuvo Liquid Deluxe Adhesive. And I get mine from scrapbook.com because they always have really, really good prices on that particular adhesive, and I really like it. It gives you just enough time to move stuff around, and it dries matte enough. It's not 100% matte, but it does dry matte enough, so I'm really, really happy with it. And it lasts a long time. So I just adhered all of my stuff down. I did use the coordinating dies to cut the images out for this particular card, and just added little pieces here and there where I wanted them, and it's all done. Ta-da! They do have coordinating enamel dots for this particular set, and if you wanted to, you could add some dots to that, but I really didn't want to. So now we're going to move on to the Lawn Fawn card, and I cut and colored a ton of images for this card. I used Holiday Helpers, Christmas Dreams, Winter Village, Simply Winter Sentiments, the Stitched Mountain Borders, and the Stitched Hillside Borders. And then I also used some of the new papers that were released, one for Christmas and then the other one that's fall, the Nitpicky paper. And I used brown Nitpicky paper to signify the carpet on the inside of the house. So when you see the finished product on this card, my thought was the very front of the card looks like the outside town. And then when you open it up, you actually see the inside of the house. That was kind of my thought process when I was making this card. And instead of cutting this particular piece, I literally just scored it, and I'm putting it in where it needs to be. And put some tape runner on there and put that in place. And a lot of the all of the images on this one are Copic colored, and I did use the same markers for everything, and I have a little bit of a rainbow theme going on it. And for all of the grays, there's a variation of the grays from 100 to C1 on that, and the darkest one is in the fireplace. And I used for my reds an R89, R27, R29, and R24. And on my greens, I used a G7 and a G2, and a G29. And I'll have all of the colors I listed over on my blog. There are a lot of markers, but I've repeatedly used them on everything. Like for the browns, I did different variations of the browns, except for the cat. The cat, I did use the E90s on the kitty cat. And I just used my scissors to trim off the extra pieces off the side instead of worrying about cutting them exactly. For this particular card, I did leave the very inside panel so that it was blank white, so you could write a message on there if you wanted to. And I put my little snow caps on, and I realized that I needed a little bit more. There was too much space in between my snow border and my mountains, so I cut down a piece of shiny paper from a pack that I got from Michael's a long time ago that has a bit of a sheen to it, not much but a bit, and it's perfect for snow. I love making it on winter cards. And this is where I realized that I needed something else in between there, and I wanted all of my houses to go in rainbow order. So I put that on there. That's a little shiny piece of paper, and I added that right under my mountains, and then I added all of my houses in rainbow order from red to violet, and put my little trees in there and all that kind of stuff. This card was a lot of fun to make, and to add snow to the little trees, I just used my white gel pen, and I added white gel pen to different areas, like on the front of the houses, and on the hats on the little elves, and on the bricks on the fireplace. And before I put my fireplace in, I assemble it before I put it in there, because I layered a bunch of stuff on there and fussy cut all of that stuff out. And if you go over to my Instagram, you'll see how I put a black edge around everything on my fussy cut images. I don't pick it up and hold it. I lay them flat down so the back is facing up, and take a marker and a scrap piece of paper, and I draw a line around the outside edge of it instead of trying to hold it in my hand, because I have marked the front of them so many times when I fussy cut something, and it's just not worth it to me. I put them face down on a scrap piece of paper and run the marker around the edge of it, because I'm using 80-pound Nina Solar white cardstock when I die cut and color an image, so you don't see that black marker through the front of it at all. So just keep that in mind if you're having trouble with edging any fussy cut pieces. Put it on a piece of scrap paper. Excuse me. Put it on a piece of scrap paper and draw around the edge of it with a marker. Just make sure that your marker is not an alcohol-based marker, or it will run. I use a very old Zig marker that is actually a pigment-based ink, but it dries really, really fast. And it's deep, 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 dark black. So I really, really like it, and I will be very sad when that pen runs out, because I doubt very seriously I will get to find another one. And I noticed that my church was a little crooked there, but that's okay. Perfection is not what this is about. It's about creating an entire piece that is absolutely gorgeous no matter what. I added the bow, the stockings to the front of my fireplace before I put it in, and I put my fireplace in on right there, and then I add the clock and the little candle to it. And then the last thing that I will do is add the box gift with the little teeny tiny little doll and an itsy bitsy bear, and then the cat and the dog on a rug. And I add that on a piece of acetate and put that in there so that it looks like they're laying in front of the fireplace. The only thing that I wish I had done a little bit different on this card is actually make my acetate a little bit longer, stick it up further, because it doesn't show up very well behind the mountains when you open the card. That's the only thing I would have done different. But because I use such good adhesive, I can't pull it back out without tearing stuff up, so I'm not really worried about it. But that is the one thing that I would have done a little bit different. And I put our little elves in there decorating the Christmas tree. And for the puppy and the kitty cat laying on the rug together, they have an itty bitty teeny tiny little bone and an itty bitty teeny tiny little fish. and I poked the little fish in front of the kitty cat, and for the doggy, I kind of tucked one of the bones right under his little ear, so it looks like it's kind of under his chin. I just took a craft knife and cut along the black line. You can't even see that it's cut by any stretch of the imagination. You just can't even see it. So that's something creative that you can do. And I did the same thing for the gift box. I made a slit in between the front of the box and the back of the box along that black line, and then I adhered the dolly and the bear inside of the box. And to make it look like they have popped up out, I adhered the box top along the side as if it was sitting on the side of it. So it's super, super cute, super, super easy. Lawn Fawn just makes it so easy to put those kinds of things together because just their images and it's just so sneaking cute. And I'm using the acetate that I have is a little bit heavier than what you would use to possibly make a window for a shaker card. This is some pretty stiff acetate, and I actually bought it to go for a picture frame, inside of a picture frame, to hold something in not a picture frame, a shadow box, to hold something up in a shadow box. And I got it from Amazon, and I'll link to it if I can find it again. It's been a while since I've purchased it, but I'll link to it over on my blog. It's some 12 by 12 sheets, so it lasts forever, and it was pretty inexpensive. But you see my little boxes and stuff don't stick up over that mountain right there. I would have put them up just a tad bit higher. But I was thinking you're going to look at it different. But anyway, so that's the only thing that I would do different for this card. Don't forget to head over to my blog and grab your free measurement sheet out of my resource library. And don't forget to go and find me on Instagram and share your stuff, as well as take a look at mine. And find me on Facebook and Pinterest, and of course here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up for my videos. And thank you so much for joining me and watching my videos. And anytime you have a question or need help with anything, or you would like to see something on my video channel, just drop me an email at jill@jillcameroncreations.com, and I'll be happy to see if I can't make that happen for you. And anytime y'all need anything, let me know. Thanks so much for watching, and y'all have a great day.